Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
What's up, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Creating Wealth Podcast. This is Kyle Curtin. I will be hosting this wonderful small episode today. I hope you are all having a very happy Wednesday. If you are watching this on the PC or on the browser rather, or on YouTube, whatever you're, might be watching the video version on, I do have a brick wall behind me because the my basement is still like gross from a while ago. It's very much a work in progress. So essentially, what we're going to be talking about today is a little tip when it comes to virtual assistants, and I mean potentially really like any type of hire that you're hiring to become a teammate alongside you. So basically a tiny little lesson that I have for everybody today is when it comes to hiring, especially with like virtual assistants and that kind of thing, prior to hiring a teammate, make sure that you have at least a pretty good consistent idea of what it is that you want them to do. And the reason that I tell you that is because basically, so I've been, working with this one teammate for a while. And I actually, unfortunately, just let her go a couple nights ago. And it's no fault of her own at all. She is absolutely incredible. I introduced her to a friend of mine, and they might potentially start to work together. Maybe not, But the thing was the reason that I say that is because what was very interesting to me was so let me start here. So everybody and their mother wants a VA, to do all kinds of different things and all that fun stuff. But something to keep in mind is like when you actually hire them, like keeping them busy, and what I ended up struggling with a ton was, having this absolutely wonderful individual working alongside me, always asking me for more things to do, always asking me for, if I needed help with anything, like, if there was anything that she could have taken off my plate. She was absolutely incredible, But the thing was it was very, very challenging for me to find things to give to her. And in the meantime, I was paying her 3 hours a day for 7 days a week. You know what I mean? Because that's like the kind of hours that she wanted. And, given the, USD dollar per hour was very, very incredibly favorable for over here, as well as, being equivalent, in the Philippine peso, it was very, friendly here to be able to do that kind of thing, but essentially what that exposed was there's always like a million different things that, I'm thinking of. And, I know everybody else is the same exact way. And basically like, I kind of have a habit of, zinging in like a million different directions, getting set on like one habit. And I'm talking about all within the business context. I get all, I change my mind often, as I acquire more information and change, my opinions and how I formulate things in my brain and, how I perceive doing different types of actions and potential outcomes that go along with going in, different directions and pivoting, and it's all stuff that serves the mission, you know what I mean? Of buying properties, of, helping clients, of leasing up units, like, et cetera. Like everything is always feeding that direction, but the thing is like, that's the thing that I really struggled with. As much as everybody, myself included, always wants a VA, and wants to leverage as much as they can. I'm an incredibly huge proponent of it, like 100 million%, absolutely. Something that you want to do prior to, hiring, another person is basically write of like, all the things that you really don't like doing every day that you do that might be super repetitive. Write them all down, and kind of build like a super runner. Because something that I had found, which I'm sure different people will say different things, and everyone is different and that type of thing, but essentially, if you what I was kind of looking for in the relatively recent past was essentially somebody to, kind of take over my social media and, be very experimental and really unleash creativity and help me build the brand, like almost kind of like a CMO, chief marketing officer type of role, and be able to have fun and experiment and create and all these different things, as long as it fits under the umbrella of the vivid vision, that I have together for creating wealth. And it was tough. And I think it was tough for a few reasons. One of them being, like I said, I change my mind often when it comes to the small term. So something that gets exposed when you hire someone and you don't have things for them to do is that I feel like you don't necessarily have yourself together as an individual as much as you should. And that was a big learning lesson for me in the incredibly recent past is, I was continuing to incredible and, always asking me if I needed anything. She would do, like one-off things for me here or there when I asked pretty well, most of the time and that kind of thing. But that was the thing is like, I didn't know what else to give her, and maybe I acted in scarcity for, letting her go, but I don't think so. I mean, because I was having her do maybe like one or two things a week that definitely weren't taking, 21 hours a week, you know what I mean? Um, and just because it's like I mentioned, it's incredibly favorable for monetary wise for both currencies, to be able to work with another individual and pay them and be paid by them, depending on what side of the world you're on. And just keep that in mind, So I ended up, doing that and I'm kind of like reconvening, and putting some things together. And I have to put a list together of like really what I want, and is it somebody that is more of a CMO? Like, how do I find somebody that will help me build the brand um, that uses their own creativity and really like emerges and has fun and that type of thing, Because I mean, one of the other things that I do want to mention too is I feel like when it comes to some of the countries around the world and that type of thing, the Philippines included, is it culturally like it might not be as culturally accepting, to basically be incredibly creative when it comes to helping out folks in other parts of the world. And instead very like, all right, like what's the next task? What's the next task? Like what are these 3 steps? Like do these exact 3 things this way, with this outcome on the back end. And kind of like less direct and more indirect of like, you know what? Like here's what the overall vision looks like. This is the type of thing that I'm looking for. Um, like I want you to think and create and produce and experiment and come back and we can in a sense like kind of talk it out and pivot in little different ways, but it's basically you that's coming up with or the other person that's coming up with a lot of those ideas, you know what I mean? And so that's something that I kind of struggled with, and something to keep in mind, guys, when it comes to hiring especially virtual assistants. I hired her for a miscellaneous, task back in the day when I was hosting the Gardener meetup to kind of help me out with that, with a tiny bit of social media. And then, we things, kind of pivoted in a lot of different ways and we stopped doing the event. But, we continued to work together, and tried to find things that we could, kind of resonate on each other with and that type of deal. And continue to find ways to try to grow together. You know what I mean? And yeah. So that was the thing, is like just keep that kind of thing in mind, guys. Is everybody is so quick to want a VA to do XYZ, but make sure that you actually, have an adequately long list of things to do for them to do prior to hiring. And I know things are always going to pivot. You're always going to jump onto new things, like having them stop doing old things, whatever. You know what I mean? You're always going to be moving. But make sure that both of you guys are getting the value that you deserve. You know what I mean? And I feel like I completely let her down because, I changed my mind so much. And, I mean that in the sense of, like I said, like, you go to a meetup, you have one conversation, like you learn this little piece of information, and then all of a sudden the next day you're like doing things completely different. And now like the other person you're working with is out of whack. And yeah, so it's like, in my opinion, it wasn't fair to her, to like continue working together, and not really having a direction. Like, how do you believe in somebody's mission if they don't even know what the mission is themselves? And it also, wasn't fair to me as well to kind of like just, continuing to pay, you know what I mean, for her and that kind of thing. And I value her time very much, but just like not having my crap together, and it kind of turned into this thing. And I blame it all on, like my personal leadership development. I feel like I'm incredibly early to that in a sense, and, still trying to learn that component of things. And, so one day at a time, so, I mean, the next thing that I'm going to do is be incredibly intentional. One thing I will tell you is, so the teammate that edits the podcast, shout out to you, Mr. Christian. Love you, dude. It's a little bit different because it's a lot more direct. Christian's been helping me for the podcast for a few years now. Absolutely love that dude. And it's very direct, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, like here's like, these couple things, like the episode's ready, like, edit it when you get a chance, and he rips it up, and crushes it. And I feel like that's a little bit different because it's so direct, like we know what the expectations are for each other and that kind of thing. And yeah, but somebody else that may be more of a miscellaneous, maybe like an administrative, like a little bit of social media, a little bit of this, that, the other, is going to be a bit different with that kind of thing. And that's something to absolutely keep in mind. You know what I mean? And yeah. So keep that in mind, my friends. Don't just rush into getting a VA just because like you have an opportunity and that kind of thing. Make sure that you actually have a good amount of reasons, and take some time and sit down and write things down on a piece of paper that take up a lot of time in your day-to-day, things that are easily delegatable, things that are difficult to or that you just don't enjoy, rather. So yeah, but I will catch you all in the next one, my friends. Have an absolutely awesome day today. I will see you later. Goodbye.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.